In this video, we'll be taking a look at 3 college football games happening on October 7, 2023, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games. So 2 picks for each game, 6 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 3 college football games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start. If you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Kentucky versus Georgia. The Georgia Bulldogs play host to the Kentucky Wildcats on Saturday night in a Southeastern Conference showdown from Sanford Stadium. This battle of undefeated teams in the Southeastern Conference East could go a long way towards determining how the season looks over the next few months. The Wildcats are coming off of a big win over Florida and have their eyes set on taking down another big dog. For the Bulldogs, the wins haven't come as easy as previous seasons, yet they remain ranked at the top nationally. Georgia has dominated this series over the years, but with 2 of the last 3 meetings coming within 2 scores, this could be the year when Kentucky pulls off the upset. The Wildcats and Bulldogs are both undefeated at 5-0 and both ranked in the top 25. Kentucky has shocked some people this season by starting so well after losing star quarterback Will Levis to the NFL. This line opened at 24 points and has moved all the way down to 14 at the time of making of this video. Kentucky's schedule has been relatively easy up to this point, with their toughest opponents being Vanderbilt and Florida. Georgia is in a similar spot, with last year's quarterback leaving for the NFL, and they have also played a relatively easy schedule, with their hardest matchups coming from South Carolina and Auburn. This will be a good test for both teams to see which one can stay undefeated. Kentucky has surprised some people with the way they have played in their first 5 games this year. The Wildcats' defense has allowed an average of only 15.5 points and 297.2 yards per game. They will have their work cut out for them against a Georgia offense that averages 41.5 points and 481.2 yards per game. The Wildcats' offense is not nearly as explosive, averaging only 396 yards per game, but the Bulldogs' defense is still arguably the best in the country, allowing only 11 points and 287.2 yards per game. Georgia struggled with Auburn and South Carolina a little this season, but their talent, specifically their defense and tight end Brock Bowers, ultimately prevailed. Despite that, in their Southeastern Conference games this year, they are 0-2 against the spread, and I don't think that will improve this week. The Wildcats have won 4 of their previous 5 games on the road against the spread, dating back to last season, including a 45-28 victory against the Vanderbilt Commodores at First Bank Stadium in Tennessee a few weeks back. After upsetting the number 22 Gators last week, Kentucky has now won 4 of their previous 5 games against the spread in 2023. The Wildcats have also won against the spread in each of their previous 4 matchups with the Bulldogs, including 2 at Sanford Stadium. Despite their perfect season thus far, the Bulldogs have won only once in 5 tries against the spread overall and have failed to cover at home in 2 of their 3 contests played at Sanford Stadium. The Wildcats definitely have the offensive weapons to keep pace with the number 1 Bulldogs, currently ranking 9th in the nation in average points scored per game and ranking high in several other key offensive categories. While the Georgia defense started the season strong, they have taken a step back recently, allowing 20 or more points to their opponents in their previous 2 contests. They needed a last-minute touchdown to take down the 3-2 Auburn Tigers last week. The Wildcats are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games overall, and 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 against Georgia. The Bulldogs are 0-4-1 against the spread this year. Kentucky has a solid defense that is comparable to Georgia's on a smaller scale, and although I don't know if their offense can keep up, I think their defense can keep them in this game. The trends and stats support a close games between these 2 squads on Saturday evening, so the Kentucky Wildcats to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Georgia has hit the over in 6 of its last 9 games, and Kentucky has hit the over in 3 of its last 5 games this year. Georgia's offense is averaging over 41.5 points per game, close to the total that is set for both teams here. Their quarterback, Carson Beck, seems to have found a rhythm in his last few games and has thrown only 2 interceptions this year. If he can continue to limit his mistakes, this offense can score points. Kentucky's offense is nothing to sleep on either, averaging 38 points and 396 yards per game. Their quarterback quarterback, NC State transfer Devin Leary, has also been playing well, but their true star is running back Ray Davis. He is coming off a 1,000-yard season last year at Vanderbilt and is averaging 7.8 yards per carry this year with 8 touchdowns. Over the years, this has been a lower-scoring affair in the Southeastern Conference, but with Kentucky's shift in offensive mindset of late, they'll be ready to put up points in this one. Leary will turn the ball over, but he also has the unique ability to make big plays and take advantage of a Georgia defense that has taken a slight step back of late. For Georgia, they welcome back their own weapon in McConkey, giving them a pair of weapons at wide receiver that will be a little difficult for Kentucky to slow down. Beck has a big arm and won't have any issues flaunting that in this one. The total for this game is very low, which is understandable as these are two of the best defenses in the country on paper. However, their offenses are not bad either. Look for Davis and the Kentucky offense to keep points on the board and keep up with Beck and the Bulldogs offense. Expect plenty of points in what could end up being the most exciting Southeastern Conference game of the weekend. Over the projected total is our full game total pick. Michigan versus Minnesota. The consistent Michigan Wolverines travel to Minneapolis to take on the Minnesota Gophers in a battle between Big Ten East and West. The game takes place in Huntington Bank Stadium at the campus of the University of Minnesota on the evening of October 7th. The primetime game will be played in front of a stadium capacity of 50,000 fans. The Michigan Wolverines will be on the road for the second consecutive week when they travel to Minnesota to play the Golden Gophers. The Wolverines are 5-0 straight up, but are just 1-3-1 against the spread, with those 3 non-covers being in the first 3 weeks of the season when they were over 35-point favorites. They won each of those games by an average of 27 points without head coach Jim Harbaugh on the sidelines. Unlike Michigan, Minnesota will be at home for the second straight week. The Gophers are coming off a 35-24 win over Louisiana and are now 3-2 straight up, but that was their lone cover of the season. Michigan has a much more talented roster than Minnesota, which is over 40 spots lower on 247 seconds team talent composite rankings than the Wolverines. I do not have confidence in Minnesota scoring much against this Michigan defense, a unit that tops the nation in defensive predicted points added, success rate, and points per opportunity allowed excluding garbage time. For reference, the Golden Gophers are 95th in offensive predicted points added and 87th in points per opportunity. On the other side of the ball, they are 75th in defensive predicted points added and 128th in points per opportunity allowed, while Michigan is top 10 in offensive predicted points added and top 20 in total opportunities inside the opposing 40-yard line. Michigan is a well-oiled machine. They take care of the ball, they systematically move down the field, and they don't make mistakes. In fact, they are the least penalized team in football with only 13 penalties on the season for an average of 18.6 yards per game. Both teams have won the time of possession battle this season. Michigan is holding the ball for 32 minutes a game. This is because they convert third downs 56.6% of the time, extending drives. Minnesota holds the ball for 32 minutes of their games utilizing a Big Ten-style offense that runs and churn out longer drives. Minnesota accomplished this behind their big-sized offensive linemen. The athleticism of Michigan's defensive line will be a different type of test than Minnesota's offensive line has been used to so far this season. Michigan's defense has not allowed any opponent into double digits yet this season, averaging 6 points allowed per game. The athleticism of the Michigan defensive line will be able to handle the sheer size of Minnesota. Offensively, Michigan's is in the part of the season where they are starting to turn up the intensity. They have sat in the 30 range for the first 4 games of the season but ratcheted their scoring well into the 40 seconds last week against Nebraska. Michigan will continue to fine-tune their offense looking down the road toward their battle with Penn State and Ohio State. Minnesota isn't talented enough to play with Michigan for 4 quarters at the Big House, especially if its leading rusher Taylor is hobbled or sidelined. Cal Egmontis played poorly last week versus Louisiana, relying too much on Jackson to move the football. Without him, he wouldn't have surpassed 100 passing yards. Zach Evans was a solid replacement for Taylor in the ground game, but he won't have similar success against Michigan's 14th-ranked run defense. The Wolverines are dominant defensively, especially on third down. In short, the Gophers won't hold the football long enough to keep pace on the scoreboard. The Michigan offense is starting to hit its stride as McCarthy is coming off a quality performance and the rushing attack continues to shine. The Wolverines should find little resistance opening holes for Corum to use to his advantage, and I doubt they'll have to stray from their relentless rushing approach against the Gophers. Minnesota is 119th in third down defense and 102nd in red zone scoring defense as well. Finally, Michigan's 1-3-1 record against the spread has soured some of the public's appetite appetite to take the Wolverines, especially here on the road against a Big Ten foe. However, Michigan is getting value here, laying less than 3 touchdowns. The Wolverines have an average margin of victory of 26 points in Big Ten road games since the beginning of last year. I typically gravitate toward the underdog in games with low total and double-digit spreads, but this is an instance where I am looking the other way. It could be a long day for Minnesota on both sides of the ball, especially when trying to stop Blake Corum, so I will lay it with Michigan despite its poor against the spread record. So the Michigan Wolverines to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. In typical Big Ten fashion, this game between Michigan and Minnesota has a mid-40s total line on it. As evident last week, Michigan's scoring is gaining traction and the team will look to build on its successes as it gears up for its important games toward the end of the season. This low line is set where it is because Michigan hasn't allowed any opponent to score into the double digits yet this season. Minnesota's offense is in for a tough day indeed, but their ability to run the ball will lead to at least a couple of scores. The Wolverines will stomp the Gophers, scoring plenty of points in a big house beatdown. They are 6th nationally in third down conversions, a dominant rushing team, and an efficient passing team. The Gophers allow their opponents to convert over 50% of their third down attempts, are suspect against the pass, and will likely be on the field far too long to hold up against the punishing Michigan ground attack. Even if this game gets out of hand, the Gophers should be able to generate some offense. They have been tough to slow down on the ground and are unlikely to move off that game plan. Even if the game is out of reach, with or without their star running back, I expect them to score a late rushing touchdown, just as Nebraska did last week when it got on the scoreboard with a 74-yard gallop into the end zone. Look for Michigan's score to pass the 40 mark for the second week in a row and Minnesota to chip in on their own. Minnesota could very likely get the score into the low double digits, being the first team to do that this season given their 24-point per game average. I won't be surprised if Michigan pushes past the 35-point mark, nearly carrying the total over 46 points on its own. Over the projected total is our full game total pick. Notre Dame versus Louisville. The top 25 matchup is set for Saturday night when the number 10 Notre Dame Fighting Irish travel to take on the number 25 Louisville Cardinals. Notre Dame is coming off a thrilling win over number 17 Duke, defeating the Blue Devils 21-14 on the road and covering as 5.5-point favorites. Louisville just won 13-10 on the road at NC State, but did not cover the 3.5-point spread. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish are getting the benefit of the doubt because it's Notre Dame, a popular team for the betting public. However, Notre Dame has been shaky the last 2 weeks, losing a heartbreaker to Ohio State and escaping Duke, a game it probably should have lost. The Louisville Cardinals are a balanced team that's 11th in total offense and 24th in scoring defense. Louisville just grinded out NC State in a road victory and has allowed 14 or fewer points in 3 of its last 4 games. Plummer is a solid and experienced quarterback with excellent weapons in Jordan and Thrash. Thrash has excellent speed and quickness and can outrun almost any defensive back in the nation. Louisville has beaten 3 Atlantic Coast Conference teams and has looked even more impressive at home. The Cardinals and their fans will treat this game like the Super Bowl, while Notre Dame is hoping to survive so they can take on USC next week with a 6-1 record. There will be money on Notre Dame due to name recognition, but in reality they were lucky to beat and cover against Duke last week. This is also a look-ahead spot for the Irish as they play USC in a highly anticipated matchup next week. Louisville is being underrated here, and the value is with taking the points. Night game and the crowd should be out in full force. This game means more to Louisville, so the Louisville Cardinals to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. When these teams play quality opponents, the score stays below the total. Louisville going over the total against Boston College or Notre Dame going over the total against Central Michigan is irrelevant. Louisville's toughest opponents were NC State and Indiana, and the totals in those games were 23 and 35 respectively. The Notre Dame-Duke game totaled 35, and the week before against Ohio State only hit 31. If Louisville can score just 13 points against NC State, how many points are they going to score against one of the nation's better defenses? Louisville's defense is certainly not shabby either, but the Irish gave up just 17 points to Ohio State and 14 points to a Duke team with a really good quarterback in Riley Leonard before the late injury. In their last 6 games, Notre Dame has allowed over 20 points just once. Louisville has allowed just 52 points over their last 4 games. These defenses can turn it up against better competition, and the same will happen here. There will not be a shootout between these ranked opponents. Under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed. Subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.